G'day, legends. Welcome back to Roadside. This is the Giro lift out, and we've had a huge opening to the third week. The high mountains is where we're at. We've had two high mountain stages to begin this third week, everyone, and they have not disappointed. They've cracked open the general classification and they've cracked potentially a number of GC riders. Tommy, we've got two big high mountain stages to come this week to wrap up the Giro. Oh, it's been absolutely electrifying, mate. What has been the major standout point so far of our first two stages in the Mountains?
Oh, mate, it has been brilliant, hasn't it? But expectations have been met. You know, you've just been hammering on about this Giro. It hasn't started yet. Why hasn't it started yet? We're in the third week. I'll tell you what, mate, it's started, hasn't it? We've had some electrifying racing. And it's just been on. The GC battle it's been desperate, hasn't it, on both stages? Carapaz, maybe the main animator. Oh, hasn't he just started to ride beautifully? Even the team, they're starting to just really dig deep. Even last night, Stounhauser, he was just digging out. So for me, mate, it's the GC battle. It's the GC battle. Yourself?
Yeah, look, I have to say, I know I've been really hard on the Giro organisers and the parkour setup with this race. And, you know, perhaps if it wasn't set up like this, we wouldn't have such a juicy melon that we're just getting stuck into this week with the GC action. So I'll give it credit there. The build-up has been great. I have to say my standout so far was stage 15, just that filthy, wet, classic Giro. We always get a Giro stage like this, the unpredictable, the rain jackets were out, and it was a real tester of who's got what it takes to be a GC rider and a Grand Tour rider, no less. So I really like that. Now, Tommy, we've got a big show today. We're going to discuss, the comparisons that need to be made between Del Toro, who's shown us a lot this week in the third week. A lot of similarities with one particular rider. We've got the box seat and who's in it for the Giro d'Italia. Carapaz, Del Toro, Simon Yates. There's a lot still on the cards. And Carapaz, he's staring down the barrel of his second Giro win potentially. And then we're going to discuss...
Still 40 seconds. There's 40 seconds, my friend. You're jumping the gun there.
That's right. We'll discuss that later on. And Red Bull as well. They've cooked this Giro. They've got it all wrong. We're going to discuss that as well. But a little bit of news before we do fire off into our Giro lift out, Tommy. And starting off, the big three have announced that they're racing for the first time this year, mate. Who are they?
Well, mate, who are the big three? We got Remco, your boy Pogacar, and my man, Jonas Vingegaard, will take to the start line. I saw this pumped up throughout the week, and it's been on the books for quite some time that at least the big two were going to be at the Criterium de Dauphiné. Of course, the big lead-up race to the Tour de France. A lot of the riders, they either go to the Dauphiné or they go to do Tour of Swiss. The Dauphiné is kind of always picks out stages out of the Tour de France, and it does them sort of throughout the Alps. It uses that block of racing, and that's attractive for a lot of riders. The last couple of years, though, we've seen, obviously, Pog, he didn't go. He just did nothing. He just did an altitude camber between the Tour and the Giro. Vingegaard, he probably just lives on the volcano at altitude and then rolls in. So it's pretty exciting, isn't it, to have the big three? But I do know that a lot of other GC riders have seen or have known about this for quite some time, and they've all gone, this is my year to go to Swiss and go do Tour of Swiss with those big three boys there.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? The way people are watching what the big three, Jonas and Pog, are doing with their calendars, and I think it's just I think this is actually a negative to pull out of this news item, which I'm so excited to see these three and interested to see how they're looking in the Dauphiné. But it's the first time all season in 2025 that the three biggest, let's say, GC names outside of Roglic are together. And let's hope that we can just get more of that in the future. But very interested to see how they stack up. And you're right with it, the Dauphiné being a lead-up race to the Tour de France. They also tend to test a Queen stage at the Dauphiné. So the Queen stage of the Dauphiné in the mountains is usually at least 70 to 80% of what they'll use as their Queen stage in the Tour. So it's a really good opportunity for the riders to race on that parkour and see how it goes. And Simon Clark, Tommy, big news this week for an Australian cycling legend. He has decided to hang up the wheels next year at the end of the Australian Summer and Cadell's Great Ocean Road Race. Simon Clark, mate, he's been a superstar of Australian cycling and a real trailblazer as well for other Aussies.
Yeah, he certainly has. I think you're in the money right there, mate. He has shown a clear pathway how to, not just have a successful career, but to carve out a niche at each sort of step in his career. He had that little sort of hiatus where EF didn't really renew his contract. He had a little bit of time without a contract. He was still training. Got the call from Israel, and they gave him a go. And that year, he ended up winning the Tour de France stage that went over the cobbles, out sprinting Taco van der Horn. So it shows his resilience, his canniness for bike racing. I think he'll make a great director if he ever steps into that side. But it's what he's done for the younger generation in his latter years, hasn't it? Even more so helping out the story of Brady Gilmore over summer.
Yeah, no, he has. We talked to Brady at the end of the Road Nationals at the start in January, Western Australia this year, and Brady being over in Western Australia, he had not received his new bike, his new frame, any race wheels, or even his new skin suit with the correct sponsors on. And Simon Clark was the man that was able to get a lot of that kit to him and came over to race in WA when he was probably the first time he's thrown a leg over the bike for 2025, and he did a job for Brady at Nationals where he finished, I think, in the top 5, I think, Brady. So a really good finished 4th. There you go. He did just behind Liam Walsh. You're right in the sprint. So Simon Clark, not only has he been a stalwart Australian cycling, but he's definitely left a legacy of helping out younger riders too. And we can't forget some of the big career highlights he had. You mentioned the Tour de France stage in 2022, but he's also a 2-time Vuelta stage winner. 2018 and in 2012 was his very first Grand Tour stage win from the breakaway. So a big name and one of those riders, I think, Tom, that we'll remember who got the most out of his ability because he was a crafty racer, Simon Clark, and let's hope he has a good finish to 2025.
Yeah, and he also wore the jersey at the Giro. He did, the Maglia Rosa. So anyway, he'll be missed. But from one sort of stretch of road to the dirt, your man who you love and fawn over, Mathieu van der Poel, he has fractured his scaphoid bone?
Yes, that's right. At the Novo Mesto mountain bike, it was his return from the mountain bike. I actually think since the Olympics where he crashed, a couple of years ago, and the interesting thing here about that break in his wrist, the scaphoid bone is a very, very complicated injury to have because it's one of the 8 wrist bones that are in your wrist, and there is a very limited blood supply to those bones. So if you do actually fracture them, the healing process can take a long, long time. So anyone that's fractured their wrist or their scaphoid, it's actually a bad problem that's happened in footy as well. It can take a long time. So it means no Croix-Team de Dauphiné for Van der Poel. It probably means a lot of Zwift for the great man on the ergo. And it does put his Tour de France in doubt. And we know he doesn't even want to go to the Tour. So he's probably just sitting on the ergo, just smashing his wrist into the bars just to make that injury a little bit worse because he's only going because the team's telling him to go.
He doesn't want to go to the Tour. Where's this? What's going on there?
He said it earlier this year, and he was. I think he kicked up a bit of a stink. He did not want to go because he wanted to focus on the mountain bike rounds, and he did say the team and sponsors are obviously paying his wage. So he's, you got to pay for that Lamborghini, mate. Sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do.
Just like this pod, eh? Oh,
that's right, mate. Sponsors, mate. We move on to Ineos and what's been happening in the realm of Ineos because they're having some issues with their sponsors.
Yeah, this is the biggest news that's come out, and I actually think it was Chris Marshall-Bell who has just been following this over at Escape for them. He's all over it, and he's mentioned that Ineos sponsor talks have stagnated with Total Direct Energy, the big energy French company. He's recording that from one insider, Total Energies, they're insisting that the team's UCI license be moved from British to French, something that the current owner, Ratcliffe, he is just not about it at all. Can you imagine? Like, the team Sky, the team Ineos, it was born and raised British. The whole part was that we're going to put a Brit on the podium or the top step of the tour. And that wasn't that, too long ago. And now they want that license to be moved over to French. I can't see that happening.
And the last bit of news as well was the 2026 Vuelta. It looks like it is beginning in Monaco next year. And interesting, Tommy, it will finish in the Canary Islands, which I don't know where that is. But
where are
I'm
the
sure
Canary Islands? That was going to be my first question. Go on.
Yeah, well, I don't know, mate.
Throw
I'm going to
the
say near Albania.
They're on the other side of the Iberian Peninsula. They're halfway down Morocco. Or at the southern tip of Morocco into the Western Sahara. So where a lot of people travel to for riding as well, but also holiday. Escape the northern hemisphere, their miserable winter. I like it. Don't know. It'll be pretty hard work, but it's a good flight. Like it's going to be pretty hard work to get everything on the ground logistically. I wouldn't want to be the one planning all that. So I'll wait and see if that is the case. But fair play to the Canaries if they get the race out there.
That's a few camels, that's for sure. Now, we can't forget about Zwift. Amazing sponsors. Zwift, actually, for our WA listeners, we are doing a Zwift Pedal Mafia party here in June on the 13th of June. It's a Friday the 13th, by the way. And we're celebrating the 10 years. Yeah, Friday night, selling 10 years of Zwift in Pedal Mafia's new setup. We're going to have an 8 males and 8 females, the best of the best here in WA, racing on Zwift for $1,000 cash, Tommy. So that's going to be a good one. So make sure any Western Australians are out there, head to PM site and check out the link and register. It's free to join. There's going to be beers, shelter beers, Tommy, by the way.
Ooh.
Plenty of food and drink as well.
I was about to say, what's the draw card to get me there? Mate, are we going to have a race there? Should we have a race? Last time at TDU, I absolutely dusted you up. Are we due for a rematch as well?
Well, let's see. That's not my contract, but I certainly add another line to you, Tommy. We can see if we can get the number one, because we both know that I slipped a shoe in the pedals in Adelaide that time. But let's get into our Giro lift out, Tommy. We've got lots to discuss. This is Roadside, presented by Zwift.
Righto, mate. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, we can't drag our feet too long because there's still 3 stages to go. Sprint stage tonight, then a couple of monster stages. But looking back quickly, stage 16 was pretty much touted as the Queen stage. Around 200 kilometres and a touch under 5,000 metres of climbing. It saw the break, survive to the end. And the XDS Astana Beast just continues to roll on. Christian Scaroni, he rolled across the line alongside his teammate, King of the Mountain jersey wearer Lorenzo Fortunato. So they had a 1-2. But behind them, it was the GC battle, wasn't it, mate? It was just going gangbusters. Del Toro, he faltered for the first time. Roglic, he stepped off halfway through the stage, put him in the bin. Carapaz, your man, he leapt out and he animated the race, didn't he? He took the biggest step forward, and my man, the Canadian Derek G, as well, took some time, as well as Simon Yates. Incredible stage. Lots of DNFs there, though. Hey, Roglic, even Tarling had a crash. There was Martinelli from VF Bardiani Group, who actually slid off into a ravine, and your man as well, Paul Magnia, stepped off. So lots happened in stage 16.
Yeah, you're right. It really was what we were waiting for the last 2 weeks, a stage like that, and it was one that we'll definitely remember for a long, long time. Stage 17, we love this. This was the resurrection of Del Toro. We thought he cracked on stage 16. We thought he'd fallen apart. The blood was in the water. The Mexican blood was on the wall, but he rose again. Stage 17. He got dagged, Del Toro. He got dagged. He was put under pressure on the Mortarolo, where they do climb the easier side, by the way, yesterday. And then
you know what it's called?
What's that, the easier side? It's the Mortarolo, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nicknamed like the Contador side. Anyway, because it's the year that Contador just ripped up the script and tracked down yours truly, Fabio Aru. Carry on.
Aru, he loved a bit of pharmaceuticals, the great man, as did Contador. We can't forget. But Del Toro, he was pressured on the Mortarolo. He kept cool, rode to his tempo, and he used the terrain in the finale of stage 17 to his advantage, and he used attack as his form of defense on the terrain that suited him a lot more, those punchy, short, sharp climbs, and he put Carapaz under pressure. He dropped Yates, and he eventually, with his bike handling skills, stole the stage from Bardet and took 20 seconds in the process on top of Carapaz. And it really not only was a celebration, absolutely mint, but I think it showed to us that, hey, Del Toro, He's still in this fight. So the GC, Tommy, how is it looking right now going into our second 2 mount stages to come?
Well, Del Toro's got 40 seconds over Carapaz, and then another 10 seconds back to Simon Yates, who just lost a little bit in that final run into last night's stage. Derek G, he is still in fourth. He's 1 minute and 57 seconds back to Del Toro. Behind him, the journeyman of Italian cycling, Damiano Caruso, is 3 minutes behind Del Toro. Then it goes to Bernal. Pellizzari is salvaging something for Red Bull, the young Italian who's 5 minutes back from Del Toro. He's 7th overall. Ano Rubio for Movistar in 8th, then Adam Yates, and our boy Michael Storer. Not his night last night after what was a brilliant stage the night before. He slid back 3 places to 10th overall, and he is 7 minutes and 46 seconds behind Del Toro.
Caruso, man. I mean, he's like 40 years old. Apparently, he loves a dart as well. He loves a cigarette, the great man Caruso. So
he
it's
looks
amazing
like it
to see. Yeah, it's amazing to see.
Signed a 1 year contract extension. So he's 37, I believe, and he's going around for 38. And his answer was, why I go again? He just said, oh, man, the form's good. Why not, basically? Yeah, top the superannuation up, and yeah.
And Pellizzari, we're going to talk about him as well. A great ride for him, considering he's probably shipped 4 or 5 or 4.5 minutes, just trying to help out Roglic as well. But I think our big talking point to begin, Tommy, was where the race is at right now, mate, is one man who I have to say, Del Toro, I've been holding off the comparisons for him and Pogacar all year. And it was stage 17 that made me go, you know what? We have to compare this guy because the similarities between Del Toro and Pogacar are striking, and they're getting more and more. The more we see Del Toro race, and for me, it was the attacking as his defense mechanism last night or on stage 17. He used the terrain that he likes best, that punchy stuff, and it was a perfect display of someone who's matured beyond his years. He didn't get destroyed on Mortarolo. Can you imagine his morale of getting cracked on stage 16 to come back the next day and to ride like he did? He's very similar to Pogacar. He loves the short, punchy stuff, a slight weakness with the long climbs, but he races with aggression and panache, and I love it, mate.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it, to consider the idea that we view Pogacar as, once in a lifetime or once a generational rider, and someone like Ayuso has simply just bobbed up. He was good as a junior, obviously. He won the Tour de l'Avenir, the junior Tour de France, so to speak. He actually beat Pellizzari, the Red Bull rider, in for that honour. But Del Toro, what he did the other night and really picked up on it was that, like you said, he attacked, but he's got this package, doesn't he? This ability of race nous, understanding, eagerness to win. His bike handling last night, Bardet, who was third, said Del Toro, he accelerated, but it was his bike handling that won him the stage. He referred to say that he just took 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter through each corner, and he had a gap. And then all of a sudden that question was asked between the 2 riders behind, who was going to chase in the last couple of hundred. And obviously once he had that gap, he just was able to go right to the line. So he is a bit of a shark in the water, isn't he, in those sort of scenarios? And you say the longer climbs are his weakness. He's so young. He's second year World Tour. The longer climbs, he will just adapt. He'll build and continue the load. I wouldn't be surprised if he does very little after the Giro, because they're trying to look after him a little bit. And I think, we saw Gianetti, the head director at UAE last night. He was there. And the big bold lid, he just had the biggest grin from ear to ear. The whole UAE camp was above. And you ask the question now if you're Ayuso, and even the question was put to Gianetti, what's going on with Ayuso? And he said, no, we've got him on a long contract. He's not going anywhere. I don't think that's the case.
It was a weird response. It was a strange response. It reeks of someone who's worried that Ayuso is headed out the door. And there was clearly something wrong with Ayuso. Like his ability, he's an incredible. What we saw all year of Ayuso, he didn't actually put a foot wrong, but maybe he raced too much. Maybe he's still young.
Maybe it was the race. Maybe it was the race.
He's only 22 years old. He crashed on his knee, and a little bit down there. But one thing we just love to see is Del Toro, and I think as well, as his English gets better, because obviously his English is still very limited. I think as his English improves, we'll start to see, I think, the type of energy we see him racing with in the interviews, because it seems like he does have a very energetic and likable personality, and I look forward to seeing that develop. But he's only 41 seconds ahead of Richard Carapaz, El Jaguar, the Ecuadorian, the 3 gold statues, the Olympic gold medalist, former Giro winner. Carapaz is steaming with form, and on these long climbs, these big long days, Carapaz seems to have everyone's measure.
Yeah, he certainly does, doesn't he? And he seems to also have the team, or at least the race scenario, to be able to try and isolate Del Toro. How often have we seen over the last couple of Grand Tours where there's always one rider there, on the big climbs or the tail end, and Adam Yates just does an amazing pull and he's there and, or gets over maybe 20 seconds behind over the top of the climb and can ride it back. But there seems to be a level of isolation at the moment there for Del Toro, and Carapaz. He's exploiting that, and he's done an excellent job of doing that, even pushing on after the Motorola last night. And having Steinhauser there, all he needed was one other rider. If EF had 2 or 3 riders in that break, it would have been alarm bells, and that would have been we would have seen a very different GC. So Matt, I dare say the closeness of all the GC riders is certainly playing into favour for someone who is aggressive like Carapaz.
And we'll talk about stages 19 and 20, which are the 2 big stages to come after the next break. Your man, Derek G, Tommy, and you were early to put him on the podium with your predictions. I scoffed at it. I scoffed at that. But I have to say, some slight humble pie. He's not on the Giro yet, but he's not on the podium yet. But humble pie from me, because he has very much ridden a fantastic Giro. And he does look like the GC riders that are sort of moving on the up, as opposed to someone like Bernal, who seems to be falling down in the standings. He looks like he's getting better.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? He does. He just looks like he's one of those riders who just maybe doesn't have it in the first week, or at least in week-long races, he doesn't have that punch, that vicious acceleration. But he's one of those riders where a cumulative load builds in, and he can just recover, and continually put out the same power output that's required, or at least the best that he can do when those scenarios come. And we saw that the other night on the Queen stage, where he opened up a gap over Yates and Del Toro. It wasn't even an acceleration, was it? It was just a little ride away, and then he just buried himself to the line, and he took a handful of time. He's a little bit far back, though, isn't he? I don't know how he's going to get on the podium, because he's not a big hitter like Carapaz in terms of attacking. But if it comes down to, the Finestre, on the final day of stage 20, a vicious climb like that, and you're just racing to the top, it's just going to be a TT to the top. So
yeah,
that could really be his day. I'm keen to see how he goes. He's had a good Giro so far, mate. But something you've been prattling on about as well. What are your thoughts with the Red Bull scenario? They came into this Giro. I was all for Roglic. I was on the Roglic horse. I just thought they were going to mop the floor. They had the strongest team. They've been disappointing, haven't they?
No, they have. They've been really disappointed, and I'm very interested to see if Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, will they change this Giro? Will this Giro, and the way that's how it's panned out, will this change the way they race Grand Tours in the futures, and the way they set up for Grand Tours in the future? Because they've gone with the sole leader with Roglic, and if you've got Roglic in your team, yes, you get it. He is your sole leader because he's got the Palmares there to do it. But with the way this Giro's panned out, they lost Hindley early to crashes when he wasn't protected. Second wheel behind Tracknet in that hectic rain stage. Martinez has been nowhere. Pellizzari obviously has been held back a lot to protect Roglic, and now we're seeing how good he can be. And maybe it shows that perhaps they need to go into the Tour de France or their future Grand Tours with 2 leaders, because once they lost Roglic, the whole thing has fallen apart, and they're left to chase some breakaway stages, which, let's face it, look unlikely the way the races has been panning out this year.
Well, yeah, I dare say they came into the Giro, though, with Hindley as a co-leader. Maybe not a co-leader, at least. well, they didn't get the opportunity to race like that because Hindley unfortunately got caught up in to be honest, just a bullshit, unlucky crash. It was innocuous, right hand bend in the road, a little bit off camber. There was a touch of wheels.
Yeah.
Pure bad luck. Cycling is a terrible sport, isn't it, in the grand scheme of things? And it was, in my opinion, it was pure bad luck. I honestly thought Hindley was going to be on the podium or at least that top 5 alongside Roglic. So I think Red Bull did come into it with 2 really good riders. And I'm a little bit more annoyed, to be honest, that they didn't move someone up into that second position as soon as Jai faltered with that bad crash, that bad luck. They knew Pellizzari was going well. I heard it from Shane Archibald on a different podcast. He's a director. They knew he was in amazing form. I think they should have moved him up and protected him earlier.
We're seeing it now. He's super strong, Pellizzari, and perhaps the one that they go with next year to the Giro or maybe later in the year at the Vuelta. Now, FE Sports, Tommy, we've got more after this break as well. We must mention FE Sports, the Shocks Open Run Pro 2. They are the new bone conducting headphones they've got on the stocks at the moment. And I've actually just ordered a set, right? Because at work, I have. And I ordered them because, these ones we know you can wear them without putting anything in your ears. It means you can hear the road and any sounds and surroundings when you're out riding. That's a benefit, right? Or running, because these are the run ones as well. But I've got them for work where we're around loud equipment, heavy machinery and that sort of stuff is what we work with. But you can put in, like ear protection. So, just like earbuds or ear muffs, and you can wear these and listen to your podcast or your music at the same time. So this is a great thing if people work with loud equipment or in loud surroundings that need hearing protection. You can still have your hearing protection in and have your Shocks Open Run playing as well at the same time. Pretty good.
Yeah, don't mind that. Good shout. I need to get myself prepared then.
Yeah, what loud machinery. My head just calling you every 5 minutes. Big shout out to Every Sports. We do love them. More coming up after this. This is Roadside presented by Zwift. So we've got 2 big stages coming up, Tommy, and the sprint stage, of course, that is today, the day of recording, but who cares about that at this stage? We've had plenty of those. Stage 19 is the big dance that we're starting off with. This is 165 kilometers. It is 4,785 meters of elevation. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 categorized climbs between 1 and category 2. It's a huge stage, a lot of kilojoules burnt, completely different to the stage that Del Toro won on stage 17. This is the stage where we're going to see Carapaz, Yates throw the haymakers at Del Toro on all of those climbs, mate, and it's going to be massive.
Yeah, it is. Well, I think we're going to see a real whittling down of that GC group and that isolation again, which is just so exciting to watch. You know, having a category 1, 1, 1, and a second to finish on. It just means that, like, maybe if you're not on the hardest climb to finish, it can be a little bit more open, which does invite maybe a little bit more aggressive style of racing rather than everybody just waiting and waiting and waiting. But I tell you what, I love the fact that they've put a category 3 right out of the screws. They do neutral and then they just roll into this cat 3. And I think it would just be filthy. The Gruppetto would be looking at this after, a sprint stage and go, who the hell has designed this? This is an atrocity. I love it, but I also love stage 20, the final big dance.
Just before, Tommy, before we go to stage 20, will Del Toro be in pink after stage 19, after this stage?
No. I think Carapaz.
Okay. So into stage 20, mate.
I think Del Toro is smart enough. He's shown years. He's riding beyond his years. And I think he's smart enough as well with the DS and everyone. And even Adam Yates and Rafael Micah, they'll just say, mate, if you're in a bad situation and you're dropped, just ride your limit, ride, and we'll bounce back the next day. I think that's how they'll plan it. I think they'll look at it and say, it's great, we want to win, but we want the podium as well. I don't want to come away with nothing.
Yeah, and he wants to come away with a new renegotiated contract as well. We talked about that in the last episode, but this is on Friday and Saturday night, where the big stages belong in a Grand Tour. So I'm happy to see that. Stage 20, Saturday, Tommy. It's the last chance they've got. It's 200 Ks, 4,200 meters of vertical climbing. What does it look like, mate? And this is setting it up.
To be honest, mate, it's a pretty flat opening start. The first 100 Ks is pancake, and then they hit the Col de Finestra. This is what they call the Chimacope. The Chimacope is like the highest part of the Giro. They go right up to 2,170 meters. And the final part of this climb, mate, it's actually gravel. And cast your minds back. This is when Chris Froome in 2019, he overcame a 3.5 minute deficit to knock out Simon Yates, who'd gone on a rampage the week before, taken a handful of stages. He overcame the great Tom Dumoulin as well. This is when Froome went the climb was in the middle of the stage as well. He went out solo, 60K. I remember this stage vividly because Benny O'Connor, he crashed on the way down. It was his first Grand Tour. He broke his collarbone. And I just remember
Simon Yates. Remember that? Simon Yates was in the lead.
They didn't crack him. They obliterated him. He just went out the arse. They were on the lower slopes in the trees. And Yates just, they smelled blood. And Chris Froome, he sort of rode the Col de Finestra into the Giro history with this stage. So it is just one where the Tifosi, the Italians, they will be right up on the crowd. Well, right up the upper echelons of this mountain. And they will be there in the thousands. I hope the weather's good. I hope the snow's cleared. I hope the gravel's safe, and I hope we just see the battle of all battles.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those crowds at the top. And interestingly, I mean, they'll probably spend the last hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at above 1,800 meters of sea level, because once they descend the Finestre, there's another 16K climb back up to 2,000 meters, the Finestre, to finish. So that is going to be a massive one, and the second and last mountaintop finish in this Giro d'Italia. So it's going to be so interesting. I hope that the GC battle is still, there's still going to be a minute, I would say, in the GC race by the time we get to stage 20 and this final climb up the Finestre and, of course, the Sestre. So it's going to be a great finish. We're licking our lips, and I can't wait to see how it's going to turn out. Now, our Aussies, Tommy, what's been happening with our Aussie watch?
Oh, mate, to be honest, it's been a bit dismal. I'm not going to lie. We were buoyed with joy in the first week, but Stora, the West Aussie, he rode well on the Queen stage, but he lost time yesterday. We spoke about that. He's back down to 10th. Your boy Luke Plapp, he's picked up a little bit of the flu, I believe. Is he crook? How crook is he?
I think he's got sore shoulders, Tommy. He's got sore shoulders from carrying the Jayco team for the last 3 years. So, hey, I think he mentioned on Stanley Street that he was feeling a little bit sore after that rest day, following the stage before the rest day.
Grand Tour.
Well, yeah, that's right. It should be sore, but you can pick up bugs here and there, particularly when you're carrying the whole team. I didn't like this one, Tommy, and I don't know all the information as to why Jay Vine
you better give a strong opinion then.
Yesterday, but I tell you what, if it wasn't sickness, that's piss week to leave the Giro. You do the 2 time trials, you pull a couple of turns on the flat, and then when your team needs you more than ever, he packs up and leaves. So I'm sure it's not the case, but if he didn't have any injuries, he didn't crash, there was no mention of sickness or illness or anything like that, let's hope there's a real reason why he left, because I tell you what, Del Toro could use him in the mountains because he was flying, Jay Vine. Absolutely flying.
Yeah, you'd take all the help you could get, and he's good enough, Vine, as well, to get himself in the break or to do something and to get himself up the road and to be there later on if he needs, or just it's a miss. It's a big miss, isn't it? But I'll wait and see what the reason was. I'll post up and wait. I'm not sure about that one.
So too bad.
Yes, I'll let you go.
That's what I think.
Ship in the harbour isn't always safe, is it? Chris Harper, he was looking active on the stage, previous stage, on stage 17 for the break. He was out the arse on 16, and you could just see he was biding his time. Maybe the rain. He was just like, "No, I'm not about this." Damien Housen, your man, you loved seeing him ride for the national team at TDU at the start of the year. He rode his guts out for Tom Pidcock, didn't he, last night? He tried to pull back that breakaway, which he sort of did. And then Pidcock absolutely made a meal of it and got nowhere near it like they've done all Grand Tour, all Giro d'Italia. And your boy Jensen Plowright, mate, where is he? Where is he on GC? This is the Plow watch.
There's a lot of scrolling happening. He's 160th, so he's looking pretty good. But what's his buffer to the second last and third last? Oh, mate, there's 15 minutes in it. So there's 15 minutes from Jensen to the Lanterne Rouge. So
he's safe.
I don't know. I actually want him to get it because I think it's more impressive if he gets the Lanterne Rouge. He's got to make up some time.
No, he'll be right. He'll be right. Now, mate, come on, give me your final. I don't want to wrap this up until you tell me what your podium is going to look like. I can't. Our podiums at the start of the Giro, I remember going, I believe it was Roglic, Ayuso, G.
I went Roglic, Ayuso, Hindley. That was my 3, and 2 of my picks aren't even here. So I obviously had Carapaz and Yates 4th and 5th. So that means mine's looking pretty good. But are you asking the predictions for the end of the race?
Yep. Give me what have you got?
I think Carapaz does win. I think tomorrow's stage 19, the 4,800 meters, I think he'll get the better of Del Toro and take the jersey by, let's say, a minute. So he'll be in 20-second buffer going into stage 20, and then he'll hold on. He'll hold on in the final day. I think Del Toro finishes in 2nd place, and Simon Yates is going to finish in 3rd for Jumbo-Visma. So I reckon that's going to be my podium. So Carapaz to win his 2nd Giro and really build a palmarès. Del Toro to really just get out, just mouth salvating for the future, and then Simon Yates actually doing something at Jumbo. What about you, mate? What's your pick?
I think it's hard to go past Yates and Carapaz, isn't it? They've just got the class, the experience, the bit of nous, the team. I think it's going to be really hard to split them. I think Carapaz might get the better of him because he's just got that acceleration. But that acceleration will count for very little on these big climbs, particularly the Finestra. I think Carapaz agree. I think he wins. I think Yates is there. And I also think G is on the podium. I just wouldn't be surprised if Del Toro falls off. I just think.
Well, hang on. What's the podium? What's the podium?
Carapaz, Yates, G.
Okay, so you're thinking Del Toro, he melts out of the podium.
I think he doesn't melt. I think he puts up a resistance, but I think it just might. He's in the deep end here of a Grand Tour, and he's competing at the pointy end. And I just wouldn't be surprised if he just ekes time out and maybe loses a minute to Carapaz and Yates, and he tries to go above that threshold to what he can do. And G might pounce on that. I think G's getting better. It'll be a nail biter to see who will finish 3rd out of all these riders.
It will. Okay, well, we'll find out. We're going to have our last episode will be on, what will it be? On Monday. We'll probably recap the entire Giro. What do you think we'll do?
Oh, we'll see how we're traveling. WA day over here, mate. So I don't know about that. We'll see if the weather clears up. We play some golf. That might take priority.
Yeah, a couple of birdies for me, a couple of bogeys for Tom. Looking forward to that. Now, legends, don't forget, follow us along on YouTube and, of course, Roadside and the Press Room Podcast on Instagram. Our Giro coverage, Tommy, it's been bloody fun. I'm looking forward to the final one when we recap this Giro d'Italia, which has been a banger.
It'll be good, mate. It'll be good. We might even do that one in person, hey?
Sounds good, mate. Looking forward to it.
Been a pleasure. Wrap it up.